Hinomaru Ushio is an ordinary-looking 15-year-old boy and much shorter than most, standing at only 5 feet and 1 inch. However, appearances can be deceiving. He has trained his body and mind for years, with the dream of attaining the title of Yokozuna, given to the strongest sumo wrestler in the world of professional sumo. Having just graduated from middle school, Hinomaru is on his way to the high school sumo powerhouse Ishigami High to check out its Sumo Club and get admission in the school. He notices a girl being harassed on the crowded train and stops and forces the molester to get off the next station. He shames the man in public for his actions, but the station attendant detains Hinomaru, thinking he is a molester as well because he is only wearing his mawashi belt. He is let go hours later in the noon, causing him to miss the Sumo Club's morning practice. He finds it hard to navigate his way to the school because he got off one station early and only has a poorly drawn map made by his friend. In the distance, he hears a school bell chiming and runs toward the sound, thinking it is from Ishigami High. While walking to the front gate, he hears the familiar sound of smacking and thumping of sumo practice in the back. Excited to see the esteemed Sumo Club in action, he goes directly to the back and climbs the fence to join the sumo wrestler Shinya Ozeki. He is impressed by the quality of the sumo ring, which is filled with perfectly packed dirt and a stiff border innovatively made out of a water hose filled with dirt. He confidently introduces himself and states his goal of becoming Yokozuna after becoming the strongest high school sumo wrestler and offers to practice in a bout. Before Shinzia can reply, Hino takes off his shirt to reveal an impressively muscular body with scars running over his shoulders. Shinya puts all his strength into it, but Hino very easily grabs his face and pushes him to the ground, putting a swift end to the bout. Impressed by his skill, Shinya asks him why he's never heard his name in any official matches. Hino says that he could only participate in a few matches in elementary school due to some unfortunate circumstances, but now plans on joining this school to revive his competitive sumo days. Shinya is beyond happy to hear Hino plans on joining the Sumo Club. Hino checks out the dojo, but is surprised to see it filled with delinquents. The delinquents cuss out Shinya for entering the dojo, but Hino stands up for him and tackles one of them to the ground. This causes a fight to break out in the dojo, and their leader, Yuma, walks into the scene after hearing the commotion. Hino suggests he and his delinquents try sumo wrestling out sometime, causing all of them to laugh. Shinya steps in, fervently apologizes to Yuma, and drags Hino away from the dojo. He explains that Yuma is the strongest student in the school and has a fearful reputation, despite only being a sophomore. He won the Kanto tournament for karate in middle school. In short, it's best not to mess with Yuma. Hino asks where the other members are, and Shinya says that he is the only member. Surprised, Hino asks how the sumo powerhouse Ishigami High has only one member. Shinya points out that this school is actually Dachi High and that it makes sense Hino would want to join a powerhouse with his high-caliber skills. Hino assures Shinya that he can see Shinya's dedication to sumo through his physique and the well-made sumo ring. He bids farewell and says he looks forward to meeting him again in an official tournament. Hino walks to Ishigami High with the new directions given by Shinya, but somehow goes in a circle and arrives at Dachi High again. He decides to check out the back to thank Shinya again. However, when he walks up to the back, he sees the sumo ring absolutely demolished. Yuma and his delinquents destroy the ring as retaliation for the dojo incident. Shinya thinks about quitting sumo, saying that he didn't care when they bullied him and called him fat, but now they've taken away the one thing he loves. Infuriated, Hino confronts the petty delinquents and challenges Yuma to a duel. If he wins, the Sumo Club gets the dojo back. Yuma agrees as long as he can set the conditions of the duel and goes to wait for him at the dojo. Shinya frantically begs Hino to back out of the duel, saying there's no way Yuma will keep it a fair fight. Hino persists, considering it a challenge to improve himself for the Yokozuna title. This causes Shinya to burst, saying the minimum height for passing the medical exam to become a pro sumo wrestler is 167 centimeters, or almost 5 feet and 6 inches. Hino is much too short for that, and should stop thinking about an impossible dream. He tells Hino to go back home and that he'll deal with the rest. Shinya walks into the dojo and tells Yuma that Hino won't be showing up for the duel and that he will do anything for Yuma if he lets the incident go. Yuma tells him to quit sumo because he wants Shinya to get rid of something he loves. Shinya is just about to agree when Hino waltzes in with his mawashi belt on and asks to start the duel. He tells Shinya that he knows he has a weaker body for sumo, but he makes it up with his strong spirit. Similarly, Shinya should have a strong spirit and never give up. Yuma states the condition of the duel. Hino wins if he can endure being punched by Yuma for 10 minutes without fighting back. Undaunted, Hino tells him to begin. The thing is, sumo is a sport in which you lose if any part of your body except the soles of your feet touch the ground. Hino has trained for several years to increase his endurance and resist falling to the ground despite receiving blows. The whole crowd watches in awe as he stays standing for the entire duration of being punched. Once the timer that one of the delinquents, set for 15 minutes instead of 10, goes off, Hino pushes Yuma to the ground with just one hit. The powerful move makes Shinya realize that Hino was actually the two-time elementary school champion from 3 years ago, who was given the name Hinomaru Ushio, or Demonic National Treasure, for his unbelievable strength. Yuma takes the L and gives the dojo keys to him. Shinya earnestly thanks Hino for getting the dojo back for him. The next day, Shinya walks into the dojo to find Hino, who says he rarely finds someone with as much passion as Shinya, and so will join Dachi High to build the Sumo Club with him. Hino and Shinya fight in many practice bouts over the next few days, but Hana looks forward to official tournaments. Shinya points out that they need 5 members in the club to register for any high school tournaments. This doesn't deter Hino at all, who sets his mind to the new mission of recruiting 3 more members on club sign-up day. On sign-up day, Hino brings a pot full of rich Chankanabe stew to lure students and get them to join the Sumo Club. However, it's not enough to get anybody's attention. The few that do stop by for the stew spit it out immediately because he added inedible quantities of garlic and protein powder. Shinya ditches the plan and sets out to hand out flyers instead. Only one student, second year Chihiro Kunisaki, a member of the wrestling club, ends up liking the stew and even takes seconds. Hino uses the opportunity to invite him to the Sumo Club. Chihiro wants to become America's top mixed martial artist, but isn't particularly interested in sumo. However, he finds Hino interesting enough to invite him to the exhibition match held by the wrestling club. After failing to raise any interest in the club, Hino and Shinya decide to go to the gym to check out the exhibition match. Essentially, members from different sports clubs challenge Chihiro, the national champion, to a wrestling match. Chihiro wipes the floor with all of them, including the karate, judo, and boxing clubs. This piques Hino's interest and he steps into the ring next, considering it a chance to boost the students' opinions on sumo and also gain valuable practice fighting a top-class athlete. Chihiro openly looks down upon sumo as a wimpy sport because while wrestling and judo matches go on until the opponent can no longer fight, sumo matches end right when someone touches the ground with a body part other than their feet. To him, a win in sumo has lesser meaning. Hino suggests they fight with the rules of their respective sport. So Hiro will lose if any part of his body touches the ground or moves past the ring, and Chihiro will lose if he's on his back for more than a few seconds. Knowing this gives a huge advantage, Chihiro closes the gap by typing a belt around him to make it easier for Hino to grab him. Reina Gojo, Yuma's sister and student council president, offers to referee the fight in hopes of disgracing Hino when he loses his payback for beating her brother. When the bell rings, Chihiro goes straight for Hino's legs and prepares to throw Hino to the ground. But Hino gets out of his hold and slams his head to the floor. This would have been an immediate victory for Hino in a sumo match. But the show must go on. Chihiro gets up and tries ground attacks to topple Hino, but Hino counters them all without even letting his knees touch the floor. This demonstrates how difficult it is to make a trained sumo wrestler fall. Hino attacks with a barrage of open hand strikes and drops Chihiro to the ground by lifting his thigh. Every time he gets Chihiro to the ground, he backs off like a sumo wrestler. Feeling he is being underestimated, Chihiro continues the match with renewed focus. He draws Hino in and slings him over his shoulder to throw him on his back, but Hino slithers out of the move and slams Chihiro down with a right underhand throw, a move he calls Demon Wheel. Stunned by his ability to counter that, Chihiro surrenders the match. A frustrated Rana declares Hino the winner. After the match, Chihiro joins the Sumo Club after realizing its potential and helping him achieve his goal of becoming a top mixed martial artist. Another student, Ken Mitsuhashi, also asked to join the club after being inspired by the match. Yuma tells his sister Reina he is done with being a delinquent and will join the Sumo Club to become as strong as Hino. The next day, Hino and Shinyo walk into a sparkling clean dojo. Yuma, who arrived early, cleaned up the dojo and asked to join the Sumo Club. Hino leaves the decision up to Shinya, who has been bullied by Yuma for years. Yuma earnestly apologizes for his misdeeds and asks Shinya to consider. Sensing his sincerity, Shinya forgives him and lets Yuma be part of the club. With that, the Sumo Club has a total of 5 members, enough to register for official tournaments. After everybody arrives at the dojo, a black-haired, 4-eyed guy walks in. He is Kirito, who joined Dachi High because he heard Hino had joined the school's Sumo Club. He used to go to the same dojo as Hino when they were in elementary school. He confidently claims he can get the club to the nationals as their club supervisor. To that end, Kirito arranges practice matches with Iga High, the runner-up team in last year's inter-high school national tournament. All Iga High members have impressive bodies honed to play sumo, proof of their powerhouse status. The matches are very one-sided with Iga High victories across the board. Shihiro gets fired up on his turn and uses a wrestling move to win. Hino's turn arrives, but he's nowhere to be seen. Outside the dojo, he comes across his former competitors, Shun Kuryu and Sosu Kyu's. Like Hino, Sosu was also regarded a national treasure in elementary school-level sumo wrestling. However, he stopped playing once his dad, a former Yokozuna, forbade him to fight after he dislocated Hino's shoulder in an official match. It turns out that the only reason Kirito was able to arrange these practice matches with Ishigami High was because the team's coach needs Sosu to get back in the game, and he hopes seeing Hino still working hard will motivate Sosu. Shun hopes for the same and challenges Hino to a bout to motivate Sosu. Shun is a first-year student like Hino and is no taller than him. He was the middle school midweight class tournament champion and top 8 in the open-weight middle school tournament, making him a formidable opponent. The bout is intense, with Shun starting with a low attack, but Hino counters it and pushes him back. Eventually, he lifts Shun by his belt, but Shun, who had studied Hino extensively, was waiting for this move and locks his leg onto Hino's and tries tripping him. However, Hino holds his ground and takes him down by combing a Demon Wheel and Demon Strong, which is a twisted underarm throw. After winning, Hino taunts Sosu to fight him, and this time he gets into the ring. The two butt heads at the beginning of the match, causing Hino to slide back from the collision. Sosu locks his arm in a bone-breaking grip, but instead of pulling back, Hino inches closer and releases himself. Both grip the other's belt in a chest-to-chest lock. The one who gains the advantage will make the decisive winning move in this position. However, the bout is stopped by a teacher who saw Sosu in the ring and enforces his father's ban on fighting in bouts. Hino and the others return disappointed after a valuable day of training. Kirito points out that Hino always uses his head-on technique with opponents despite being smaller than them. Although a foolish strategy, he promises to teach him how to defeat his opponents with that technique. Sosu confirms to Shun that he wants to sumo wrestle again. The next day, Kirito instructs them to arrive early for early morning training, but makes them harvest seaweed on a boat instead of practicing sumo. The objective is for them to strengthen the muscles involved in balance by habituating themselves to the boat's motion on the tall waves. On their way to school after training, the club discusses professional sumo wrestling. They find out that the minimum height requirement for passing the physical entrance test for professional sumo wrestling is 167 centimeters, so no matter how hard he tries, Hino can't get in. They wonder what motivates Hino to put in so much effort. At the dojo, the members ask why Kirito doesn't participate in bouts despite being experienced in sumo. Yuma looks down on him, thinking he doesn't fight because he's no good. Kirito puts his foot down and decides to prove his worth by making the rookie Ki fight bouts against all of them by following his instructions. The first bout is against Yuma. Yuma goes on the offense by throwing a barrage of hand slaps, which Ki blocks and then moves away when Yuma extends his arm on one of the slaps, causing him to fall to the ground. Kirito explains that Yuma puts all his strength into his upper body during his slaps, which his legs can't keep up with. This causes him to lose balance if his opponent merely moves away. He guesses Yuma developed the habit because he's only been fighting Hino, who doesn't back away. Hiked up Chihiro volunteers to go next. He also loses within a second when Ki trips him with an inside ankle sweep. Kirito explains that Chihiro's footwork needs working to prevent such outcomes. Similarly, Kirito makes Ki take advantage of Shinya's weak upper body to topple him on his back. With that demonstration, Kirito points out how obvious all of their weaknesses are compared to the well-rounded sumo wrestlers they will face in tournaments. With their current performance, they won't even make it past prefecturals. While it is good to be aware of their areas for improvement, he is there to sharpen their strengths and make them specialists with a killer move each to get them to the nationals, considering the little time they have. Next, he himself wrestles Hino to show him his area for improvement. He starts the fight with a low spider stance to force Hino to get low, but mirrors Hino's style of fighting throughout the match. Both grip each other's Mawashi belt at the same time, and Hino is about to do his combo Demon Wheel and Demon Storm move, but Kirito does the same and adds a little twist to make it a Trimble combo attack and floors Hino. Although a much riskier move because failing to do it properly will most definitely lead to Hino's loss, Kirito advises Hino to master the move, and Hino accepts. Amazed by Kirito's abilities, the club members look forward to having a real chance at winning the tournaments with Kirito, Hino, and Chihiro's strengths. But Hino reveals that Kirito cannot participate in competitions because he has a chronic lung condition. Ki goes into the locker room to return Kirito his glasses, where he sees him use a breathing mask. Kirito confides that he gave up sumo a long time ago due to his illness, but seeing Hino's defiance towards his fate and unwavering will to keep trying despite his short stature made Kirito open his eyes. Thanks to him, Kirito chose to become his coach and help him achieve his goals. He assures Ki that even he will grow to become a skilled sumo wrestler under his guidance, and that he should not underestimate himself. Yuma asked Hine why he works so hard if he will even pass the physical examination due to his short height. Kirito clarifies that there is still one way to enter the Pro League for Hino. If he wins the National High School Tournament, he will be given the title High School Yokozuna and invited to participate in the All Japan National Championship, winning which he will gain entry to the Pro League without needing to give the physical exam. In other words, Hino needs to win the National High School Championship or he will lose his chance of becoming Yokozuna forever. Seeing his sincere motivation, the club formally requests Kirito to become their coach to make them the best team in Japan. Meanwhile, at the Yamada-Kume residence, Sosuke apologizes to his father for breaking his ban on fighting in bouts. When his dad asks him how it felt, he answers that it made him love sumo again and made him want to become the best and become a Yokozuna and carry forward the family's honor. Glad to hear his son speak for himself for the first time, Master Yamada-Kume lifts the ban and allows Sozu to do whatever he wishes. Kirito engages the members in bizarre, unconventional training drills, specialists for each individual. Chihiro must follow the movements of a goldfish in a bowl to improve his footwork. Shinya must hold water in his mouth during each match to practice holding his breath, and Yuma has to practice slapping a ping-pong ball to maintain good posture and use the force of his lower body to strike. Rina is unimpressed with the drills and questions why her brother is agreeing to embarrass himself while practicing like this. Yuma answers that his instincts are telling him that if he follows Kirito's word, he will become stronger. Kirito is the best kind of instructor because he instills belief in his athletes. After the day's practice, Kirito tells them they will be going to Ishigami High to practice with his team on their next day off. It will be an excellent experience for them before the high school tournament, as Ishigami was last year's runner-up in the Kanto region tournament and the middle school Yokozuna, Munechika Mikazai, is on their team. Kirito, however, plans to send Hino to another place. The day to go to Ishigami High arrives. Shigeru can't go with them because he failed his midterms and needs to be at school to take remedial classes. When they get to Ishigami High, they're stunned to see the first years doing tire flips with 150 kilograms tires, lifting heavy weights, and doing other hardcore workouts. Unlike Eiga High, Kirito did not arrange anything with Ishigami High and has simply shown up without prior notice. The huge, intimidating captain, Kanamori, demands to know why they're here. When he hears they're from Dachi High, Kanamori gets excited to fight with Hino, but Kirito says he didn't come because he has other matters to take care of. Without Hino, the captain sees no benefit in practicing with the others in Dachi High's club. At that moment, one of the first years loses their grip on a 150 kilograms tire, causing it to roll towards tiny Ki. Shinya instinctively tries to protect Ki by blocking the tire with his upper body. Luckily, all the training to strengthen his upper body worked, and he stops the tire without getting hurt. Kirito uses the opportunity to point out how Hino isn't the only interesting member of the club. Although not convinced, the captain lets them practice to make up for the tire incident. The first sparring session is between Yuma and his second-year heavyweight class wrestler Mamiya. Before the bout, Kirito advises Yuma to avoid grabbing the Mawashi belt, but instead uses karate-infused ham strikes to push his opponent out of the ring. The strategy works well at first, but Mamiya eventually regains his composure and grabs Yuma's belt. Once that happens, it's game over, and he throws Yuma onto the ground. Next up is Dachi High's sumo captain, Shinya. Captain Kanamori guesses he must be the strongest member of the club because he was able to stop the tire and matches him up against the middle school Yokozuna, Mizuki Sada, also known as Munechika Mikazuki. Surprisingly, he isn't huge and has a rather small build. The bout begins and Shinya goes straight for Mizuki's belt, but Mizuki moves away. No matter how many times he tries, Mizuki keeps dodging his tackles. Finally, Mizuki locks Shinya's arm in a hold to prevent him from reaching the belt. With Kirito's encouragement, Shinya bears through the tremendous pain and uses his weight to push Mizuki toward the boundary. He's about to win, but Mizuki grabs Shinya's belt with his free hand and somehow swings Shinya's huge body to the outside of the ring in a move he calls Crescent Moon. At the end of the bout, Mizuki asks the club to tell Hino he looks forward to facing his sumo in the tournament. Meanwhile, at Dachi High, Chihiro finishes his remedial classes and is about to go home when he's alerted of a student from another school waiting at the dojo. He walks in to see a dude with a huge frame and a buzz cut. The student asks Chihiro to get Hino. He introduces himself as Araki from Ishigami High, and he came to Dachi High to scout the Sumo Club. He says he wishes to become the strongest mixed martial artist and join Ishigami High because he heard it has the strongest sumo team. He was disappointed to hear Hino, the one who inspired Sosu to fight again, wasn't in Ishigami, so he came to Dachi High to spar with him. Curious, Chihiro lies and says he's Hino. Araki starts walking away, saying Hino isn't as strong as he imagined, chalks up the Sosuke incident to luck, and changes his mind about sparring with him. Annoyed about being looked down on, Chihiro taunts him and unbuttons his shirt to fight. They get into the ring and start the bout. To Chihiro's surprise, Araki starts off with a judo move, grabbing Chihiro's arm and throwing him over his shoulder. Chihiro is able to plant his feet on the ground and goes for Araki's leg but misses. Confused, Araki pauses the bout and guesses he is not actually Hino. Chihiro admits he's not and properly introduces himself, saying he too wants to become the strongest mixed martial artist. The two start arguing about who the better MMA fighter is when a teacher storms in and kicks Araki out for trespassing into the school. Araki says he looks forward to seeing Chihiro again at the Inter-High tournament before leaving. On the other hand, Hino goes to the address Kirito gave him and realizes he's at the Shibekiyama Stable, known for producing top-ranked pros. As usual, Master Shibekiyama and the pro sumo wrestlers are underwhelmed when they see how small Hino is. They don't consider him a serious opponent and try to entertain him like a fan. They tell him to participate in a challenge where if he wins one of the matches, he can take back home free Shibekiyama Stable merch. Terahara, a recent high school graduate and newbie pro wrestler, is assigned to spar with him. Being twice as big as Hino, Tera plans on letting Hino win in the end after pretending to struggle during the bout. However, after seeing Hino's starting stance, Shibekiyama tells Tera to take the match seriously. The bout begins and Hino immediately clashes into Terahara's body and pushes him out of the ring. With that demonstration of his skills, Hino requests the stable to let him seriously train with them. Kirito's choice of Shibekiyama Stable was deliberate. Master Shibekiyama is also shorter than most wrestlers, but it never deterred him from attacking much larger opponents head-on, much like Hino. He has mastered the technique with decades of vigorous training. Kirito hopes that Shibekiyama can see Hino's talent and guide him as well. The master watches as Hino easily defeats his pro sumo wrestlers at the Sandam division, which is the third level in professional sumo. Hino's fighting fascinates Nori, a 9th-ranked Sekitori, who agrees to spar with him. Hino charges as soon as the bout starts, but Nori stays in position and headbutts Hino, causing him to lose balance. Nori immediately slams him to the ground. They do a few more rounds and Hino loses all of them. After a while, Nori doesn't agree to any more bouts because he understands Hino's technique. He explains that his master taught him to be like water, be fluid, while also striking with torrential force. However, Hino fights like fire, always raging but also rather sloppy. Hino demands one more bout, saying he wishes to become a Yokozuna. Nori feels insulted because Hino's statement seems childish, while Nori understands the hardships one must endure to attain the title. He agrees to one last bout to serve Hino a piece of humble pie. This time, Hino gets as low as possible and with an unexpected strength grabs Nori's belt from below and tries throwing him by lifting him up. Nori pushes Hino flat on his stomach, but Hino manages to get Nori on his knees too. Impressed, Nori tells Hino to come by tomorrow as well. Master Shibekiyama invites Hino to stay over for convenience. He eats actually good chankanave stew for the first time for dinner and gets to know the wrestlers better in the evening. At night, he feels too restless to sleep and goes down to the dojo to review the day's matches. A high school club manager staying at the stable for some time sees him and shares how her brother wants to become a pro sumo wrestler. Master Shibekiyama walks in and offers to spar with him. He sees himself in Hino, just as Kirito had hoped. Although the master never became Yokozuna, he has always hoped to see someone small like him become one someday, and he sees that potential in Hino. All the other pros wake up by then and practice begins. After a long day of practice, Hino and the club manager leave. The club manager says she looks forward to their teams meeting each other at nationals, and Hino says he looks forward to becoming the high school Yokozuna. She wishes him luck but says it won't happen this year because her brother is competing. She reveals she is school Tadori Hakuro's team manager and her name is Saki Tennoji. Hino realizes her brother is Shiro Tennoji, the national high school champion. The day of the high school preliminary round arrives. Shinya is anxious about losing that day because this is his last chance to compete in a high school tournament since he is in his final year. Hino reassures him that they've worked hard and he will make sure Shinya sees the nationals before he graduates. All their training worked out because all of them, except Ki, breezed through their fights. They make it to the final round as dark horses and have to fight Ishigami High. The tactical call would be to pair Ki with their strongest member, Mizuki, but Kirito decides they should fight head-on. The first fighters are Kian Mamiya, who is 100 kilograms heavier than him. Everyone expects it to be a landslide victory for Ishigami High. Ishigami High's captain calls Mamiya's name and nods at him, seeming to give a message. The referee signals the start of the match and Ki disappears in front of Mamiya's eyes. This is the trump card move he has practiced for 2 months under Kirito's guidance, a leaping charge. In order to beat much bigger opponents like Mamiya, he skips fighting head-on and rather leaps behind him and pushes him. He saved this move for the finals to appear as a total novice until the right moment came to help his team. However, Mamiya reacts too soon after the leap, counters it as if he expected it, and smacks Ki's face to push him out of the ring. Turns out the signal the captain gave to Mamiya was to expect an odd move, thanks to which Mamiya was on alert. Disheartened, Ki walks back to his teammates where Shinya and Chihiro try to comfort him. Shigeru fights against Araki, the MMA fighter from Ishigami High. When the whistle blows, neither moves from their positions. Eventually, Chihiro charges to grab both his legs, a move difficult to counter with judo. Araki expects it and counters it with an inner thigh throw, but Chihiro's rigorous training and footwork lets him grip the ground firmly. Araki saves himself from falling by doing a front flip in midair. Chihiro tries to trip him again while he's off balance, but Akira does a sweeping grab, a type of sacrificial throw in judo. At the last moment, when Chihiro is almost doomed to lose, he pulls off Hino's demon wheel and slams Araki to the ground, winning the intense match. With the two schools tied, up next is Yuma against Ishigami High's captain, Kanamori. He has a special hatred for delinquents due to the endless harassment the Sumo Club and Ishigami High would face by their hands in the past. He recognizes Yuma as the head of Dachi High's gang and relishes the idea of beating him. Kanamori is a wrestler who typically charges in headfirst, so getting too close is lethal for his opponents. With that in mind, Yuma plans to charge head-on and collide with his chin to throw him off balance. However, Kanamori unexpectedly starts the fight by slapping him and almost pushes him out of the boundary. At that moment, Yuma thinks back to when he first joined the Sumo Club. His karate master kicked him out of her dojo after finding out about him using her teachings to be a gangster. However, Yuma showed genuine regret for his actions and wants to make up for holding Shinya back, who he bullied for years, by helping him get to the nationals and achieve his dreams. Sensing his sincerity, his teacher took him back and teaches him special karate moves to use in sumo. Yuma holds his ground and uses a karate flip and switch technique, but it isn't to make Kanamori fall. He follows it up with an open-hand lunge punch, but shockingly, the captain blocks it with his forehead and pushes him back. As a last resort, he uses the final high-risk move he learned from his karate master. He kicks Kanamori's leg to grip his inner calf, uses the grip to accelerate toward him, and strikes his head with full force. Yuma goes for another strike to finish it off, but Kanamori locks it, and with the determination of a devoted captain, grabs Yuma's belt and throws him to the ground. Although a formidable fight from both sides, Yuma loses. Shinya puts a brave face on and quickly reassures Yuma that he will win his match to get them to the nationals, but Hino notices his uneasiness and motivates him by showing his faith in the captain. Shinya walks up to the stage with renewed hope and faces his opponent, Sanada. Sanada charges and knocks Shinya to the ground before the match even begins. Kirito believes he intentionally made a false start to disrupt Shinya's focus and make him lose confidence. The match begins and Shinya gets a slap in, showing him lose focus. A flashback shows that Sanada is the one who made the delinquents stop harassing Ishigami High's Sumo Club. Since then, he had noticed Shinya training outside Dachi High's dojo because of the delinquents in the school and sympathized with him. However, seeing him train outside every day all alone made his sympathy turn into respect and fear, because he didn't know if he would have the will to do the same if he was in Shinya's shoes. Both fight fiercely while grabbing each other's belt, but neither gets the upper hand as they are evenly matched. Eventually, Shinya catches Sanada, releases breath, and uses it as an opening to throw him. Sanada counters, causing both of them to fall out of the ring. The referee declares Dachi High the winner, opening the curtains to the final match between Hino and Mizuki. Mizuki confidently strides onto the stage for the match he's always waited for. After all, he got into sumo wrestling in middle school after watching Hino's final match at the elementary school championship. He became the middle school Yokozuna, but he was never satisfied because the person he wanted to fight wasn't competing anymore. The moment he's been dreaming of has finally arrived. The match starts and Mizuki finds it hard to counter Hino's storm of strikes, pushing him to the edge of the ring. He cracks a smile because he's glad he finally needs to put real effort into a fight, but quickly loses it when he sees Hino's intense face. Mizuki starts striking as well, each strike precisely targeted to push Hino further back. Once they reach the middle of the ring, Mizuki grabs Hino's belt to do his crescent moon move, but Hino expects it and moves away from the danger zone while grabbing Mizuki's belt. He tries to perform a demon wheel and then a demon storm, both of which fail. He proceeds to do a 100 demon takedown, which looks like it'll be the winning move, but Mizuki escapes it and starts fighting with a new intensity. The national treasures start throwing moves so fast the audience can't make out what's happening. At one point, Mizuki locks Hino's arm hard, but Hino yanks out of it and grabs Mizuki's belt with both hands to throw him, but Mizuki still holds his ground. Mizuki moves away from his position, holds Hino's belt with one hand, and throws him over his shoulder with his double moon move. Everybody, including Hino, expects him to hit the ground after this. However, at the last moment, Hino forces himself out of Mizuki's lock at the cost of injuring his right arm. Hino finishes the match with his 3-combo attack, which he dubs 100,000 Demon Drop, finally slamming Mizuki to the ground. With Hino's amazing victory, Dachi High wins the Inter-High School Championships preliminary round, an outcome nobody expected but everybody applauded for. Their team will be Chiba Prefecture's representative at the Nationals. After the matches are over, everybody rests in their team tents. Hino's injury doesn't seem too serious, but Mizuki partially dislocated his shoulder and got a hairline fracture from the bout. Mizuki takes full responsibility for Ishigami High's loss and apologizes. Captain Kanamori makes a request to him to stay in Ishigami High's Sumo Club for the rest of high school and lead it to victory once he and the other third years graduate later this year. He accepts. After the team matches, the preliminary round for the individual matches begins. The top 3 contestants get to go to Nationals. The dynamics in the individual matches are totally different, with people who were teammates shortly before may need to fight against each other to win. Shinya, who thrives on positive support from his team, gets distracted during his first individual match and barely wins against his opponent. Meanwhile, Hino fights ferociously inside the ring despite his arm injury. Chihiro, too, handles the new pressure well. Since he knows the dreams of his teammates, he resolves to honor them and fight them with his all. He wins by using Mizuki's first quarter moon move in his first match, which he picked up just from observing the final team match. Yuno wins his match easily with a decisive strike as well. The dreaded moment of facing a teammate arrives with a match between Hino and Chihiro, but both are equally determined to win. Chihiro starts the match by mimicking one of Mikari's moves and continues to use a combination of techniques he observed from the team matches, showing his ability to improvise. However, these are all distractions, and he finally goes for his real move, where he grabs Hino's belt, but Hino stops him by headbutting him. Finally, Hino grabs Chihiro's belt in one hand to do an underarm throw and puts his other hand under his inner thigh to push his lower body further down, a move he calls Hand Sweep Demon Storm. With this, he wins the match. After the match, Hino puts a cast with ice on over his injured arm. He requests Kirito to keep the severity of the injury a secret, because he doesn't want his teammates to go easy on him. Kirito tries to reason with him, saying it's stupid to aggravate his injury in a bout with a teammate, but Hino says he wants to show them respect by fighting them all out. Kirito agrees to keep his secret. Kei loses his first individual match. While walking off the stage, Kirito asks him to keep faith in him, and he will help him grow into a fighter that can win at the National Team Championship. Kei takes it in stride and looks forward to training. Shinya wins his matches, and the time comes when he has to face Hino in a match. Since Shinya is in his last year, this will be his only official bout against Hino, and he intends to do his best. Hino gets into a spider stance in order to stop Shinya's charge at the beginning of the match. Shinya notices Hino's grip isn't as strong as usual and realizes his arm injury must be worse than he let on. Not wanting to hurt his teammate, Shinya's grip falters, but Hino uses all his might to push him toward the boundary, snapping Shinya back into a fighting mood. Despite the pain in his arm, Hino tries to finish the match with a demon wheel, but Shinya plants his feet firmly on the ground and lifts Hino up. This causes Hino only to maintain a grip on one layer of Shinya's belt, which makes it much harder for him to apply force. Hino gives up on throwing Shinya and uses the last of his strength to try and push him out of bounds. Although both put up a tough fight, Shinya ultimately loses one foot out of the boundary, making Hino the winner. The two shake hands after the satisfying bout, both knowing the other gave it their all. Hino becomes the champion of the individual preliminary round, while Captain Kanamori from Ishigami High is the runner-up. The next day, the Sumo Club members walk into the school to unexpected applause and celebration, the whole crowd of students congratulating them at the entrance on their selection to go to nationals. All members are even called up on stage like celebrities, and the principal congratulates them personally in his office. Kirito asks for an increase in budget for the club, to which he surprisingly agrees. The members are unsettled by the overwhelmingly positive recognition they've gotten by the school and wonder what's up. Key shows that a viral video of the team finals has been circulating on social media, which must be the cause of their sudden popularity. A timid girl adorned with glasses and long braided hair reveals herself as the person who filmed and uploaded the video and asked to become the club manager. Kirito welcomes her with open arms. Reina gets jealous of the new manager and questions why she was never offered the position. Kirito jumps at her jealousy and welcomes her too. thinking of her as their ticket to favoritism from the student council. After school, the club heads off to a barbecue joint to celebrate their victory and new members. The manager introduces herself as Shizuko Hori, a first-year student, and the members take an immediate liking to her. She seems to feel especially shy with Hino, blushing every time he looks at her. Reina tries to steal the spotlight by flexing her student council president position, but nobody bats an eye. With the introductions out of the way, they stuff their faces with a buffet of over 100 dishes, including barbecue, sushi, and dessert. It costs 2,000 yen to eat as much as they want in 90 minutes. The chef brings out huge bowls of rice for each of them in order to fill their stomachs without eating too much of the expensive meat. A smart business move to make profits from the unlimited buffet. It works, with most of the members full after eating a few pieces of grilled meat and a bowl full of rice. However, Kirito piles more plates of food onto the table, announcing that this meal is not only for celebration but also a training session for them. Each of them must eat twice the daily calorie intake of a pro sumo wrestler, which comes up to 20,000 calories. The goal is for the members to bulk up in weight, since their team is on the lighter side for sumo. To the chef's horror, everybody picks up their bowls and starts shoveling food down their throat. With just 5 minutes to go, everybody is at their absolute limits. However, Hinomaru picks up his chopsticks and goes for one last round of barbecue, saying he'd be unfit to be a Yokozuna if he can't finish the food on his plate. All the boys cheer him on as the chef accepts defeat on his knees. The Sumo Club is banned from ever dining at the restaurant again. Later, the club gets together to discuss training for the nationals in 2 months. So far, they were focusing on individual training, but Kirito plans on pairing them up now with the main objective of promoting good communication. He pairs Yuma up with Captain Shinya, since Yuma needs practice to counter being grabbed by his opponents, and Shinya needs to work on grabbing his opponents. Kirito will pair with Ki to help build his strength. The final pair is Hino and Chihiro. Yuma seems off during the individual bouts with Shinya, as if his heart isn't truly in it. Shinya asks Yuma if something is wrong, but Yuma dismisses his concerns. Shinya tries to get him to open up, saying the whole point of pairing up is communicating with each other. This only drives him further away, and he tells Shinya he will ask Kirito to assign new partners. After a while, he admits that he still feels guilty for bullying Shinya for years and trying to take sumo away from him. He thought he could move on after cleaning up the dojo and apologizing to him before joining the club, but after realizing the joys of sumo, he became even more aware of what he stole from Shinya. Kind as ever, Captain Shinya reassures him that he had already forgiven Yuma on the day he joined the club. Plus, seeing Yuma slowly grow to love sumo the way he does was a rewarding experience that he is grateful for, and wouldn't want things to have turned out any different. Finally, Yuma is able to put the whole thing behind him, and they get back to training with full spirit. After practice, Hino and Kirito watch recordings of matches of the current high school champion, Shido Tennoji, to figure out tactics to defeat him. However, they worry it's impossible with the little amount of time they have. Kirito gets a call from Master Shibekiyama, who invites the Sumo Club to train with his stable over the weekend at Nagoya, where they are gearing up for one of the pro tournaments. With some time to spare before meeting with the master, the club splits into 2 groups, one exploring Nagoya cuisine and the other visiting Nagoya Castle. Hino enthusiastically volunteers to wrestle a sumo actor named Keiji, but gets into an argument with another man who wants to wrestle him too. Ticked off, Hino challenges the stranger to a bout to decide who gets to wrestle Keiji, to which the stranger agrees. Turns out the giant of a man is Tenma Hikage, a national treasure and strong contender for the title of high school Yokozuna. Kirito tells Hino to back off, but Hino grabs hold off Tenma to do his 100,000 demon drop, only to get a sinking feeling in the middle that he will lose if he makes the throw. Tenma taunts him to finish the throw, but is interrupted by his team members, who find him and put a stop to the bout because he has chores to finish for the club. While leaving, the captain wishes Hino luck, calling him the 3-combo attacker. Dachi High members freeze at the remark because it is clearly an indication that they know about his special move and already know how to counter it. At the dojo, Sekitori Nori calls Hino out separately and invites him to train with the high-level Sekitori wrestlers in a tent. Reina and Shizuko follow Hino and secretly record the bouts for Kirito. Hino gets a hostile welcome from the other elite pros, who consider him too weak to be worth training with right before the Nagoya tournament. Hino decides to prove his abilities by stepping into the ring and fighting a bout with Sekitori Mayanashiki. Hino decides to get rid of the fear he felt during his fight with Tenma and puts it all on the line by doing a 100,000 demon drop. It works, and Hino successfully throws his high-level opponent to the ground. This win secures Hino's faith in his ultimate move. The other Sekitori wrestlers line up to face the move themselves, but soon they start countering it. Mayamashiki asks for a rematch, but he counters Hino's move easily this time. Although impressive at first, they highlight how his move has plenty of weaknesses and won't work twice on strong opponents. Hino feels utterly deflated, thinking he's lost everything he's worked hard towards. However, he picks himself up and strives to work harder. An old man who was watching Hino's performance with Reina and Shizuko walks into the tent to talk to Hino. As soon as he enters, all the Sekitori wrestlers immediately bow their heads in respect. The old man leads them to a massive old dojo covered in dust. He reveals himself to be a former Yokozuna and wishes to be Hino's instructor in order to sharpen his 100,000 demon drop into a real weapon.